newspapers here aren't as rigid in terms of a house writing style as they would be in the States. I find a lot of US newspapers, particularly, and sorry if I'm being rude, but particularly between the coasts, I find that a lot of newspapers are written in a style that I would consider to be quite bland, except for the columnists. News is presented very, very, very straight. Here, I think that people realise the newspaper isn't just a newspaper, it's also a brand. And as a consequence, you choose your newspaper brand the same way as you choose any other brand of consumer good that you actually consume. And so my own newspaper, for instance, is definitely written with a bit more attitude. We take an editorial line. That doesn't mean to say that we tell any lies, we don't. But it is definitely presented in a way that's designed to appeal, we believe, to the people who buy the paper. The Irish Times here considers itself to be Ireland's newspaper of record, on a par with, let's say, the New York Times, the LA Times, whatever. And because of that, it presents news in a terribly straight way, and unfortunately still hasn't kind of adjusted to the fact that news has moved on. If you look at the main headline there on that paper today, it says over 100 Irish troops to be sent to Syria on a United Nations mission. But like I saw that on the TV news at 6 o'clock yesterday evening and again at 9 o'clock last night. So if I see that newspaper this morning, that story hasn't moved on. There's nothing new added there. And that's what would slightly worry me about the old model of newspapers, is that why would people buy a newspaper the next morning when they already have seen that news? So unless you have something else to give them the next day, there doesn't seem to me to be a huge amount of point. I mean, you'll see it's the splash headline on there as well. I don't think, if we can just see the front page of my newspaper there, I don't think we even put it on the front page. I mean, I suppose what we would do is, the presentation of news in my newspaper would be much more geared towards people's own everyday experiences. So, for instance, there's free Medicare for people here, and it looks like 20,000 of them are going to get their cards cut. And so that's the type of story that appeals to us. It's a human interest story. It's something that's going to have a genuine impact on people's daily lives, rather than 100 people being sent to Syria, which is it'll be inside the paper, but it's just not a front page story for us.